Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're listening. Welcome in to the Fins Talk Sports Network's Touchdown in Paradise, the only college football show on the network. I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
I'm Joe.
I'm Russ.
And in case you can't tell, I'm fired up, boys. I don't know about you. You know why I'm fired up?
Why?
Game?
Because UCF won its first ever Big 12 game this weekend.
Let's go.
Let's fucking go.
Go Knights.
Charge on, baby. Let's go. We still suck, but I'm glad we got that off our shoulders. Let's move right into the news here. What is going down this week? Let's start here. How the Grinch blew the season. Alex Grinch, USC defensive coordinator, now out of a job. The Trojans defense gave up 34.5 points per game this season under Grinch. The unit was ranked 120th in rushing defense in the country and 107th against the pass. Riley named the D-line coach Sean Nua and linebackers coach Brian Odom as co-defensive coordinators for the rest of the season. So, Joe, I know you got your master's at USC. When you heard this news, what were you thinking?
It's about time. I mean, I feel like from the beginning of this season, we've always been saying it comes down to if SC is going to make the playoff, if they're going to win a national championship, it's going to fall on their defense. Can their defense stop people? And we've seen for the entire season, they can't. They rely on Caleb Williams to pull out heroics, be Superman. And when you face a couple teams that have better defenses who can actually stop or, slow down Caleb, like Notre Dame and Utah did, Washington, you're going to look bad because Caleb Williams can only do so much. That offense can only do so much. And, it's about time. The writing was on the wall, to say the least.
Russ, watching USC this season, we all saw that USC could not stop a nosebleed. Was this too late or was it too soon?
I mean, it's definitely a tough call in season firing. Probably a little too late, but how much can you do with in season firing? How much adjustments can you make that strides that defense is going to make on something in season? That's something that you're going to have to do off season. I guess USC's probably didn't want the Grinch around before Christmas because he already ruined their bowl chances. So now they're trying to maybe still get a New Year's Six bowl going. But I mean, I guess it was too late. But it's how much adjustments can you make on the fly, and that's what they're going to have to do. So but I agree with Joe. Caleb can only do so much, and you kind of see his reaction where he's sitting on the sidelines and his defense needs a stop, and he's just sitting on the bench and all his team's up there, cheering on his defense because he kind of knows the ball game's over.
Pete, they have arguably their biggest game of the year against Oregon in Eugene this week, and you make this move right before arguably the biggest game of the year. How do you expect USC to come out any different, if at all, this upcoming weekend?
Yeah, I think you could look towards the NFL with what the Raiders just did, basically firing McDaniels, promoting Antonio Pierce, and the team rallied around him. It really just depends on this coach that they're putting in there. I do think anytime you lose a coach, though, it is a rallying cry for the team, at least for 1 week. So this could actually work in their benefit. Maybe this guy's going to come in and try some stuff that he's been wanting to try, seeing on the sidelines that maybe, the defensive coordinator wasn't listening to. Who really knows? I'm with you guys on getting rid of them. I just try to think to myself, Riley's never had a good defense. When's the last time USC had a good defense? So like putting all the onus on this guy, I think is kind of wrong. I mean, Washington gave up 42 points to USC, who's not even in the top 10. Should their defensive coordinator be gone? But I do think it was the right call if it can envision that team getting better. But if they make this move and they still give up a shit ton of points, then it's like, okay, man, like what? Or unless maybe you're looking to the new season as to who you can get, trying to get someone in there, start the interview process, all that stuff. I don't know. But upcoming week, huge game against Oregon. They're going to rally. I think it's going to be a very good game. But I think pinning it all on this defensive guy, I think it's, offense has to score too, and they haven't been outscoring people. So it is what it is, though. That's the business.
You would think you score 42 points in a game, you'd probably win. That's
in a Pac-12 game?
42 points, Pete. Come on.
But it's like, I don't know. To me, it's just like pinning it all on that guy. I'd say, their head coach has a track record of never having good defenses, so maybe it's also his fault.
But it's not like 1 week. I mean, like this has been down spiraling from a team that had, college football playoff hype and wanting to win.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's like they're out of the realm for doing it. I'm just like, I don't know. It's a trend with them. They don't have good defense. Riley never has good defenses. When's he gonna figure it out? When's he gonna hire the right guy? I don't know.
The one thing I will say is, regarding is it the right time or not? I think there's still a lot for SC to play for. I think, if you sit and say, okay, you have the season to kind of, just do your thing, they could be almost, in like the Holiday Bowl, the Toilet Bowl, if they continue to lose. They could maybe go and lose 4 in a row, essentially, minus the Cal game. So I guess 2 and then Cal and then 2 again. But you can't do that at SC. Those fans expect, and the fact that this season, I would say, is already a loss in their eyes. Is there a good time? No, but you might as well. The other thing, being a football guy, watching that defense play, they looked like they didn't know what they were doing half the time. They looked like they had 10 things going on in their head of, am I in the right spot? Am I in the right coverage? Am I in the right zone? Which tells me that is a coordinator's problem as well as just a whole scheme problem. So you have to cut it off. You have like Neon Dion cut off those dead toes. You got to cut it off.
Yeah. I agree. Like, I'm a big proponent of, once it's not working, you might as well move on. I just want them to have a game plan here. Like, you can move on, but like, have a plan. And it just, to me, I'm like, it's Riley's teams have these problems. So I'm like, what? Maybe he has to get involved. Maybe, I don't know. Something's got to happen, because it's consistent with him that his teams don't have defense.
He brings in great recruiting classes. He did it at OU. He's doing it at SC. But for whatever reason, their defenses are always, the flat tire. They always.
But he doesn't agree with that. Remember what he said. I watched defense when we took over at OU that was not the strength of the program. And then I watched, in a matter of several months, it became the strength of the program. That's a real quote from him that he said, according to Heartland College Sports. Is he just delusional, out of his mind, saying that? What do you think?
What do you expect him to say? Like, our defense was trash, and then 6 weeks in, we're still trash.
Yeah, you went from the dumpster in your house outside to the dumpster in your house. You're slowly moving in,
And I would also argue that Bob Stoops' defenses were and are better than his defenses were ever at OU. Maybe at the tail end, OU was not great, but historically, Bob Stoops' defenses versus his, night and day. So
exactly,
he's not going to say, "Oh yeah, my team was bad at the beginning. My team was bad. Defense was bad in the middle of the season." He's going to hype himself up. But again, he's making so much money that
he doesn't care. He's getting his house paid for. He's spending all time at the Rex down there in South Bay.
PV legend.
Don't go to the Rex. Boycott the Rex, boys.
Russ, you saw his defense in person when Georgia played Oklahoma here at the Rose Bowl a couple years ago.
It was not good. Nick Chubb and Sony Michel in general ran over that defense, and his coaching performance in that I was definitely not a fan of, but the defense definitely let him down. He made some decisions that in that game that were a little questionable, especially having a Heisman winner. You can't really, take your foot off the pedal and not go with them, but defense definitely did not help in that game and kept Georgia in the game and ended up winning.
The last thing I will say, just quickly, sorry to interrupt, Justin, is just
no, go ahead.
You would think that he could bring in a top level D coordinator. You would think that any D coordinator who's just been fired or is looking for a new challenge would say, I'm going to go to SC. They have the history of having fantastic defenses. They have an endless recruiting pool just in the Southern California alone. It almost seems too easy. And the fact is that they've been mediocre at best since, I'm going to say, Pete Carroll. And last year of Pete Carroll was 08, 07.
SC's best defense probably, Brian Cushing and Troy Polamalu.
Yeah, Ray Maluga. That's really what it comes down to. But that's easily, 20 years ago almost. What 04 is 20 years ago. Which is crazy to think about. But they haven't been relevant on defense since then. That can't happen at SC.
We got to move right along here, so I'm going to cut this segment short. Connor Stalions officially out at Michigan. We all knew this was coming. Stalions is at the center of the NCAA investigation for cheating allegations against the football program. Allegedly bought 30 tickets to games at 11 different Big Ten schools. By the way, I did hear on ESPN that it is no longer allegedly. The Big Ten says, yes, this did happen. Any quick word on this from you guys?
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it anymore. Every day I turn on Get Up, First Take, McAfee Show, something new pops up, Sports Center. I'm like, I don't know what to make of it anymore. I'm like, every other day you hear about this is going to happen, this is going to happen. They might suspend them. I'm like, it's just news. They're just ramming it down my throat every morning of something.
Yeah, I looked into it actually, and I was doing some research. He's a Marine veteran. He went to school at the Naval Academy for code breaking. Like, the guy has dedicated his life to doing this. So he could also be just very good at his job and dedicated. Realistically, anyone could go out there and buy tickets to all these games and go to these games and try to see what they're doing. Now, the photos of him on the sideline at Central Michigan, I don't know what to make about that. But all the other ones, maybe he's just dedicated. So they got rid of him, whatever. I'm pretty sure all these damn schools are doing it anyways. So to be honest, he's probably just the best one at it, and they all got pissed.
I'm going to quickly shout out Barstool. It's funny because they made a reference of that coach. How do you not know who's on your staff? And you just let some guy randomly on the sideline just – now, again, I realize recruits and parents and whatever, but still, how are you not aware? Because if I recall correctly, the response that coach said was, we're looking into it. Like, how do you not know who's on your staff?
Yeah, how do none of the coaches, not even the head coach, how does no other coach be like, hey, dude, who are you?
How does he get to that field level access too? Is the question. Or security guards?
He's a Marine.
Yeah,
he just knows the ins and outs of the stadium.
The only thing I can say is it's just weird now because didn't they say there was a thing with Ryan Day and his brother investigating it? It's just
PI firm. Apparently, they all had the codes anyways. They all had Michigan signs. So I don't know.
Yeah, and then to be honest, Purdue, Ohio State, and Rutgers, gave defensive and offensive signals so they could beat us.
They're all doing it. They're all doing it. So let's just move on. The guy's gone, and then. You can come play each other here soon and figure it out on the field.
The only thing that you can say if you want to get rid of it, put the headphones in the helmets like they do in the pros. Like, that's the only thing that you're going to do to fix it. until then, I think it's a crazy story, but it's just funny. The whole Central Michigan. How do you not know who's on your staff? Like come on now.
That just makes me laugh and cringe because you know how these football coaches are really good at knowing every single one of their players' names. But what about the guys that you're paying? What about the guys who are working for you? I know the players are getting paid now, but they're not getting paid by the school. They're getting paid by NIL. Come on.
It's hilarious. It's just like, how do you not know?
Last part of the news segment here. Second CFP rankings dropped yesterday. The top 6 are still the same. A little bit of movement here. Ole Miss still now, I believe, number 9 or 10, but OU obviously is falling quite a bit. What are our thoughts? Any surprises here? Were you guys surprised about anything?
No, there wasn't going to be any shakeup, and obviously it's, it doesn't matter who's now because you're not going to see 2 Big Ten teams in there. You're going to either see, you'll see Ohio State. Maybe you'll see Michigan. We'll see what comes down the hill. The other thing is Arizona made their first appearance in a 23 tear down, and no USC.
Yeah, I mean,
the
only thing for me that I look at is ACC. Florida State has to win out, but Louisville is at 11, and they only have 1 loss, so that will be interesting later on. There's not going to be no two Big Ten schools because Michigan plays Penn State this week at Penn State, tough game. Then they play Ohio State at the Big House, so Michigan could go undefeated, and then Ohio State, I would say, would drop. And then you have Washington and Oregon at 5 and 6. So I mean, it will be interesting. I think there's not a lot of movement now, but within the next couple of weeks, there's going to probably be some movement.
I mean,
yeah, I agree.
I think Florida State definitely has to win out, especially with like the ACC is not looking as strong with Miami starting to fall off a little bit. UNC had 2 bad losses. I'm interested to see if we do end up getting the Washington-Oregon rematch, how they would play that out. If Oregon gets that W, how are you going to would you throw 2 teams in there because they split the series?
But so that would be wild. Last year of the Pac-12 and 2 make it into the champion.
It's just going to show up. Pac-12 just definitely did a poor job of selling itself.
Yep. Instead, they decided, hey, we're just going to speak for ourselves, every school, as long as this thing is around. We're going to the Big Ten anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But let me throw this out to you. So Ohio State, again, was very slow on the road at Rutgers. Now, Rutgers, no pushover this year. They are going bowling for the first time since 2014, I want to say. And remember I said, let's see if they could cover the spread. Ohio State actually pushed 19. I couldn't believe it because of the late touchdown. But riddle me this. The Notre Dame win, sadly, is evaporating from their resume as something impressive. They look slow on the road against Rutgers. They also barely beat Notre Dame on the very last second. I know they've got the win over Penn State, but do we really think they're the number 1 team right now?
I don't, but not enough has changed in the past week to change it. It will change soon, though.
Even with Georgia beating ranked Mizzou?
Yeah. I agree with. I don't know, but I mean, yeah, this is just the Ohio State we're going to see this year. They're not very flashy. They play solid defense. The offense, every once in a while, you got Marvin Harrison can go off, but. I mean, you did beat Notre Dame. You did beat Penn State. Those are 2 quality wins. Even though Notre Dame started to fall a little bit, we'll see what Penn State does this week. But I think it'll probably all play out by the end, where if Georgia just keeps on rolling, that they'll be number 1.
Joe, any last thoughts here?
I just think any of those top 4, in my opinion, could be one. There's not one team this year that's just. It's not like 2019 LSU. It's not like Georgia the past 2 years. All of the 4 teams at the top are very beatable. So I think it's just there was not really much to move. You just keep it the way it is and see how another weekend goes.
And as that weekend rolls around, I'm really excited for all these matchups here. But before we do that, just a quick couple words on last week's matchups. Game of the year with that Washington USC game, 52-42, Washington wins here in LA. Michael Penix, 256 yards, 3 total touchdowns with 1 pick. Dylan Johnson, though, running back, real star here, 256 yards and 4 rushing touchdowns on only 26 carries. So for you math people out there, that's 9.84 yards per carry. Pretty insane. Meanwhile, Caleb Williams, 312 yards, 4 total touchdowns, doing Caleb Williams things with just no defense. Russ, I know that Michael Penix has been your guy all year. Can anybody stop this guy? Can anybody stop this team?
I mean, yeah, I think Oregon will at the end of the year. But, I mean, that's my opinion. I think Oregon might be the best. But, I mean, that running game's strong. And he looked strong against Oregon, too, which is a solid defense. And, Penix, I think, is definitely – I think he's narrowing the gap of, Bo Nix is definitely starting to narrow the gap on Penix in that Heisman race. I would say it's a 2-man race right now. But I'm just Washington's still got a tough road. What they got? Utah this week, I think.
Yep.
I mean,
My brother's going to be at the game.
That's going to be a tough game, and it's in Salt Lake City, so that's going to be a tough one too.
No, it's in Washington. It's in Washington.
Still, tough game. They're playing good defense.
Yeah, Pete, what do you make of Washington right now? Are they the team to beat, or is Oregon better at this very moment?
Oh, that's a tough one, man. I mean, this game didn't go the way I thought. I thought USC was going to be able to get it done. I thought Caleb Williams was going to be able to carry the boys and raise them up. That didn't happen. Penix looked amazing. Their running game was great. I mean, 7 touchdowns between the two of those guys. I mean, god dang, I probably have to say Oregon, I think, is better, but Washington is rolling. So it's very hard. Like every week, one above the other, then the other. It's like a little horse race, a little back and forth here. I think they're both pretty dead even. So we'll just have to see when they play. But dang, yeah, I did not think the game was going to go that way. Penix balled out. Good for him. I think he's the front runner of the Heisman officially. If Bo Nix beats him in the championship game, we get maybe a little different conversation. But Penix is balling, man. That team looks good. Maybe the only team that was able to stop him was Arizona State. They just couldn't get it done.
Joe, thoughts on Washington here?
No, I mean, I agree with what everyone's saying. I mean, I think Penix is definitely in the lead for the Heisman, but Bo Nix is definitely creeping up. I also think, I know we talked about this before, dark horse Travis. Jordan Travis, sorry, not Travis Hunter. Jordan Travis is a dark horse there. Their offense, their defense, they are a well-rounded team. And again, the teams that win are not one-trick ponies. They don't throw just for 500 yards. They don't just run the ball, for 300 yards. They can do both. So if that is a defensive planning nightmare. But with that, I agree with Russ and Pete. I think Oregon's better. I don't know why. Obviously Washington has the win head-to-head. I watched Oregon play, and they look like the team to beat, to be honest, in the Pac-12, even with that loss to Washington. So I cannot wait. The only thing I fear is that one of them is going to slip up, and I'm thinking potentially look out for either the Apple Bowl or the Civil War at Oregon State and Washington State later on in the season.
Moving right along here, speaking of Oregon State, we're going to move to another orange and black OSU here because the Cowboys are on top. Oklahoma State beats Oklahoma in the final Bedlam battle. Alan Bowman, 334 yards, 1 touchdown rush. Ollie Gordon, the real star here for the Cowboys, 137 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Dylan Gabriel, meanwhile, 344 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Gavin Sawchuk, 111 yards on the ground and 1 touchdown. Drake Stoops, meanwhile, 12 catches, 134 yards, 1 touchdown. There was a controversial no call, though. No call PI on Oklahoma State in the end zone, which forced a field goal from the Sooners. Let's start with Pete here. How much does this win mean for Gundy and co?
I think it means a lot. I mean, the rivalry is kind of officially over here during the season. Maybe they'll figure out a way to do like a bowl game or something like that in the future where they play each other. But I think this is huge, and I should have went with my gut. My gut was telling me Gundy. And I didn't because I'm a freaking idiot. I'm happy for him, man. I'm not a fan of Oklahoma. I like Gundy's vibe. Oklahoma State's always kind of a team that can seemingly beat them. Whenever, every time I think Oklahoma has it, they pull it out. So I think this is huge. It's good in their rivalry in terms of recruiting. You can say, hey, we beat them. Those guys are losers. They're losers for the rest of time type of deal. But, yeah, no, good for Oklahoma State, man. It was an electric game. That PI in the end zone, it's one call. It's one call in the whole game. You can't put it all on that, man. I mean, Jesus, how many calls go wrong in the game? You can blame everything. So I'm not a fan of that. You just got to overcome it, and they couldn't overcome it, and they lost. So Go Gundy, baby!
I'd give.
Only reason I brought that up is I'm just hearing all the Sooner fans complain about it in these Big 12 shit talking groups. So I just
exactly. They love to complain.
Yep.
And that's Pete. You're complaining more than anybody, so shut your mouth. I hear you complain about the refs all the time. Refs this, refs that. Oh my God, they're terrible. So
you saw that Cowboys-Eagles game. Let's not even go there, dude.
Oh my! And every Notre Dame game, it's like the refs are screwing us. I'm like, come on, like if it's against you, you hate the refs, and now you're like, oh well, it's one play. So come on, Pete.
That's every fan though of any fan base.
Yeah, come on. I gotta be with my boys in the moment. Our backs against the wall. Jailhouse break here. The refs are coming at us. Come on.
I'll give some credit to Justin's team here. I think UCF kind of exposed Oklahoma's weaknesses with their run defense. So I'll give UCS. They're right there. They ran the ball really well. And like we saw this weekend, Oklahoma State ran the ball really well.
Joe, your thoughts on Bedlam ending here? What's this game mean to Gundy and co?
Well, I think to win the last one for the foreseeable future, it's definitely something you can brag about. I know every rivalry has a trophy, and that trophy is going to be at Oklahoma State. I think I was really down on Oklahoma State at the beginning of this year. They looked flat. They looked like they had no sense of direction, and something's clicked. I don't really watch a lot of Oklahoma State, but seeing them the past couple of weeks, they've looked legit. I just wonder though, did that Texas game and that UCF game that Oklahoma had a couple weeks ago, what did it reveal, like what Russ was saying, but then also, when you play a game that means so much to a fan base and then you win it and you essentially that's what you've put your cap on for the season, the rest of the season, it's hard to get up for. It's really hard to get up for. So when you think you're going into, Oklahoma State, you think, okay, we got this. We've been in tougher spots. And then they show up, it's hard to bounce back. So, look out Oklahoma. They have another tough one this week against West Virginia, but luckily it's at home, I believe. So we'll see.
Yes, they have not won a game since the UCF game, which they almost gave away. And Kansas has beat them, and now Oklahoma State's beat them, and they've got West Virginia. That's right. Last thing to go over before we roll on. The Tide rolled on. Bama clobbered LSU at home. Jalen Milroe, 219 yards passing, but more importantly, 155 yards on the ground and 4 touchdowns on the ground for him. Jaden Daniels, on the other hand, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. He did, unfortunately, leave the game with a concussion. We wish you well. You're a fun player to watch. I hope to see you on Sundays, and I hope to see you back this season. Guys, what are the chances that Alabama has to win out and upset Georgia?
I think they got good chances. I mean, I think we've all spoken about this, and we don't have to really, reiterate it. Saban just makes adjustments. He's a hell of a coach. And he, They got the one loss there, and they've been rolling ever since.
You know, I put into my notes last week, don't trust Brian Kelly in another big game where he needs to make adjustments. He doesn't. So, and Saban, on the other hand, as Rush just said, is the mastermind at making specifically defensive adjustments. Where this offense has come from, I think it's just stability at the quarterback. I'm still not overly impressed with Jalen Milroe, but, you know, I think it's just the fact that he has the keys to the car, run the system. And that
literally run.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I think what's their chances to beat the Bulldogs? I think I will bet on Saban to beat the Bulldogs this year for sure. I think there is, as Pete will probably hate to say, I think Nick Saban and Alabama are back.
Yeah, it sucks, but I think you're exactly right. I mean, Saban is a good coach, man. Bottom line, he is. He's better than
Good.
Brian Kelly.
Great.
I mean, he's great. Brian Kelly's never going to be on that same level. So you can almost never trust Brian Kelly to beat him because he just can't. You know, good offense can mask bad defense for a little while, but damn, does good defense make good offense? Like that defense that he has is classic Saban. They're just all over the place, man. Like they are getting to you. You got no room on the corners, like locked down. Like they are amazing. And Daniels is a great quarterback. Granted, he got the concussion, he had to leave, but that guy's like a stud in college football. And what they were able to do was just amazing. So yeah, I give them a very good chance. We don't got to reiterate like Russ said. I could just see Saban ended up in the top 4 here, and you know he's right on his way, man. You know, so we'll just have to see the rest plays out. But damn, they look good, and I hate to say it.
One thing I'll bring up before we move on here is remember at halftime of the national championship, I forget who it was who mentioned right next to Nick Saban that they've surpassed Alabama, referring to Georgia, and Saban just gave him the dirtiest look. And that look just kind of stuck in my head ever since, saying, oh, no, he's out to prove something. You can tell.
Was that David Pollard?
Yeah, that's why they
David
let him
Pollard.
go. That's why they got rid of him on
David
the
Pollack.
show.
Yeah, David Pollack. Yeah, with Georgia alum. What is surprise you?
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, who's no longer employed by ESPN, unfortunately.
Well, that's a lot of people are employed by ESPN. Went on a firing spree there.
I know. It sucks to see a lot of talent be just let go because of financial concerns. Hopefully they'll figure it out. But now it's time for the Russ Report. Give it to us.
All right, thanks, Justin. I'm still on top with 64.5. Joe's right behind with 61. Justin, you got 54.5. Pete, you're at 43.5. Made some bad picks. We all hit our picks, our cover picks. Pete, we had a little issue. You got to be certain on the call. You said
all
cover,
right.
And then you said, I think they can win. If you said, I got Indiana winning, I think is just like, hey, they might pull it out. B?
All right, whatever. We don't have videotape to go back to, but that's fine. Yeah, I'll take the win. I'll take it, whatever. You know. They hit the cover, so yeah. It's a victory.
Small victories.
Move into the Paradise Parlay here. Starting with Tobacco Road, Duke at North Carolina, UNC minus 13, over under 50.5, UNC minus 550 money line, Duke plus 410. Joe, give it to us.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear how this game's going to go. I think, Duke with that great defense is going to keep it close, so I'm going to take Duke with the points. I think it's going to be, I think they're going to, fight, but I think that offense is just awful without their QB. So I'm going to take the under, and I'm going to take UNC money line.
Okay, Russ, you got that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear from you next.
Yeah, I'm with Joe on that. That defense is legit, but I'm gonna stick with Drake May. But low scoring ball game, which you usually don't hear anything revolved around UNC.
Edie, let's hear it.
Yeah, with Grayson Loftus making the start there for Duke, I just don't think that they can win. I do think it's going to be a very low scoring game. Duke's defense is very good. I could see this being like a 27-10 game or 27-7. So I'm going to take the under as well. So I got Carolina covering under and then Carolina money line.
Yeah, being that this is a rivalry game and Duke's defense, I still think Drake May and Co can score, but Duke can't score without Riley Leonard. I don't trust them. I'll take Duke to cover the spread here. I don't know if they're going to be able to really, with the emotional factor, cover here, along with I'll take the under as well. Why not? But I'll also take the Tar Heels to win, minus 550. Got that? All right, USC at Oregon. Oregon minus 16.5 at home in Eugene. 73.5 over under, pretty high. Oregon minus 800, USC plus 550. Let's start with Pete.
This is kind of a tough one. I mean, USC firing the defensive coordinator. I was the guy earlier that said they're probably going to rally. But I still think this game goes over. So I'm going to take the over. I think Oregon is just kind of rolling, and I think they have their sights set on getting to the top 4, beating Washington. Hopefully their sights are not set too far into the future, that they're actually focused on this game. But since it's at home, I'm going to take Oregon to cover. I don't know when the last time USC was a 16.5-point dog, but I'm going to take Oregon to cover. I think the spread is maybe a trap. People are like, oh, no, USC will lose by 1, a touchdown. No, I think Oregon's going to blow the brakes, blow the doors off of them. So I'm going to take over, Oregon to cover, Oregon money line.
And I'm going to echo Pete's sentiments here. I think Caleb Williams and co are just kind of checked out at this point. Yeah, they're going to get some new defensive calling, but I just don't see it making a difference. Dan Lanning is all business. He's got his guys laser focused on exactly who's right in front of them, not on what's down the road 3-4 weeks from now. So I'll take Oregon to cover there as well. I'll also hit the over, and I'll take Oregon money line. I think the Ducks will win this game like 55-24, possibly. Joe.
Yeah, I think the money line's easy. I think Oregon's going to win, and I think the over/under is easy as well. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. So I'm going to take Oregon money line, and I'm going to take the over. Now, I think the spread is interesting. 16.5. That is massive. And I mean, I think against Washington last week, it was 14. And I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that SC covered. Or no, were they 4? I don't remember. Whatever. Anyways, what I'm trying to say, SC will bounce back. I definitely think, as Pete was saying, they are going to rally. I think there's still a lot to play for the Trojans, so I'm going to have them with the points.
Russ.
Yeah, so Oregon's going to win this game over. You might as well make it 80 points if you want, but 16.5, like Joe said, it's a lot of points. I think SC will keep it close enough to cover the spread.
And the money line pick, obviously Oregon for you.
Oh yeah. First thing, I'm going Oregon. Yeah.
It is crazy. USC goes from being a 3-point dog, I think, against Washington to being 16.5-point underdog versus Oregon. Like,
given they were at home. They were at home for Washington.
True.
They have to go to Eugene now.
True, but I mean, 3 to 16.5.
So much. Is Oregon that leaps and bounds better than Washington?
And I mean, SC had to play Utah at Utah, which is also a tough place to play too.
No, that was in LA this year.
What is?
Utah USC was here in LA.
Yeah, it was in LA, Joe.
They beat them in LA. But regardless, it was still a crazy game. I just think for some reason Oregon's going to be rolling here. I think they just got it. I don't know, and I don't think USC is going to be able to keep up with them. They have a couple possessions where they don't get touchdowns, and Oregon's just going to be dropping dimes. So that's why I'm going them to cover the spread. It is a shit ton of points, but I think reverse thinking, it actually might not be enough points.
Mm-hmm. But, Joe, you are right that Oregon did have to go to Rice-Eccles Stadium out there in Salt Lake City, which is a very hard place to play, and destroyed Utah which doesn't really ever happen in that matchup. So, yeah, Oregon is legit. How legit are they versus how legit Washington is? That remains to be seen until they meet again, because that game was in Washington. If they meet again, it's going to be in Vegas. Moving right along here, Oklahoma State at my UCF Knights, my alma mater. Oklahoma State -2.5 spread here. The over-under is 64.5. OSU -135 money line. UCF +114. Let's start with Russ here. You're the closest to Florida. You're in Florida.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Justin. The Pokes are rolling. I got them covering the spread. I got the money line, and I got the over.
All right, Joe.
Yeah, actually, I have the exact opposite. I have UCF with the points. I'm taking the over, and I have the Knights to win. I don't know why. It's a home game for them. I think coming up from that high of beating Oklahoma State's going to come out flat, and I think UCF winning their first game last week, I think they're going to be hyped. So I think the Knights are going to win.
Pete, I'll go last.
Yeah, I think the same thing, Joe. Actually, I got all the same picks. I'm taking UCF to cover money line and the over. I was trying to see what time this kickoff is. Let's see here. Oh, it's okay. So it's a later game. It's not an early game. Okay. I was gonna say if it's an early one and them traveling from Texas to Florida, it's not that far. Might sneak up on them. But either way, I think Florida's going to get this Central Florida. So I'm with you, Joe, and hopefully with Justin. Don't fade us, dude.
If you're rocking all that gear, you better be.
Yeah, come on, man.
Oh, not only am I rocking this gear, but you know what UCF will be rocking this Saturday? It's the annual Space Game uniforms. The Space Game is an annual tradition at UCF where one game of the year they celebrate their homage to all the NASA engineers who went to UCF. They call UCF Space U for a reason. It was founded to supply NASA with all those space engineers. And one little key trivia piece to know, UCF has never lost wearing those space uniforms. So give me UCF all the way through. Give me the money line, give me the spread, and I'll take the over. Let's go.
Hell yeah.
I need to catch up with Russ. So let's go.
Team when they have a crazy uniform game, dude. You just can't do it.
Mm-hmm. Alabama at Kentucky. Bama -10.5, over under 47.5. The money line here is Bama -425 and UK +330. Pete, go first.
Yeah, I'm taking Bama on everything. So Russ, money line over, cover the spread. Saban's rolling. He's really rolling. So he's putting the roll in roll tide.
Throw it to Russ next.
Yeah, I'm with you too, Pete. That's all they're rolling.
Joe, any difference?
No. How can you bet against Alabama right now? You'd be an idiot if you did. So Bama, everything over money line.
Yeah, part of me was thinking maybe Kentucky will keep it to one score, but they're rolling. I just don't see it happening. Give me Bama everything. Next here, what used to be a great rivalry in the 90s and part of the 2000s, Miami at Florida State. The Seminoles are a 14.5 point favorite, 50.5 over under. FSU -675 and Miami +490. I'll go first here. I used to love this game growing up, Miami and Florida State. I was always a Cane guy, never really a Seminole guy. Miami has just fallen on such hard times ever since they won their championship in 2001. And not having a home stadium ever since the Orange Bowl got torn down, it's not helped them at all. They're in Tallahassee this week. That's even worse. This team has just been a laughingstock at times. I'll take FSU to cover, and I think it'll be the under here. Florida State's not scoring as much recently. They struggled at Pitt last week. But give me the Seminoles money line as well. Joe.
Yeah, I think Florida State has one thing in mind, and that's just to win out the rest so they can make it to that national playoff. So I'm taking Florida State with the points. 14.5 is big, but Miami just looks awful. I'm going to take the over. I do think they had a rough game against Pitt, but Pitt's no slouch, and they got shellacked by Notre Dame the week before. They had something to prove. And then Florida State money line. I think again, it's not a question. This is another easy one.
Russ, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Florida State's cover over the money line. They got the big picture in mind, and Miami's definitely going on the
Mm-hmm. I see Pete throwing up.
I'm with you. Yeah,
Chant.
I'm with you. I'm with you guys. Let's go. I mean, there's no way they're not doing this. I mean, Miami. What I thought Miami could do earlier this season, they haven't done it, and they're not going to do it. So they're dead.
It all came crashing down in a matter of 10 seconds against Georgia Tech. Everything they were hoping to do. The Mario Cristobal special. We're going to move on here. Utah at Washington. Like I said, my brother's going to be in attendance, and I'm super jealous. Seattle is beautiful this time of year, and so is the Husky play. They're looking good after that USC game on offense, at least. That's why they're favored by 9 here, over under 54.5, and their money line minus 380, Utah plus 300. Joe, is this going to be one where Utah could surprise them, or are you thinking otherwise?
If it was at Salt Lake, or in Salt Lake, I should say, proper English, Joe, I would consider it, at least the spread. It's in Washington, though. And again, the Huskies, they're similar to Florida State. They're similar to Alabama. They have big picture. I think really the real game they have to worry about is Wazoo in a couple weeks. I think, and Utah can't score points. So I'm taking Washington minus 9. I'm taking the under, though. Utah's defense will keep them in it for a little while. So look out for that. But ultimately, Washington wins. So money line, spread, and under. Washington.
I wasn't willing to give Kentucky a touchdown against Alabama, but I'm going to give Utah a touchdown here. I still will take Washington money line, but you've seen how they haven't played great against not as good competition. Utah is pretty tough competition at home. So give me Utah to cover the spread. I'll take the under, and I'll take Washington money line. Pete.
Yeah, I think Utah has a good chance at covering, but they won't. Washington to cover over 55 and Washington money line. I'm all on Washington, baby.
All right, we've got some variety going. Russ, you going to break the tie?
No, I'm all on Washington.
Okay.
You taking the over or the under?
I'm hitting the under.
Okay. And our game of the week here. Finally, no cupcakes for the Wolverines this time. Michigan going to State College to take on Penn State. Michigan is a 4.5-point favorite on the road here. The over-under is 44. Michigan minus 198. PSU plus 164. Let's start with Russ this time.
All right. I think they'll cover. So obviously got the money line. I'm really struggling on to get back to me on the over/under. Just give me some opinions.
All right, we'll go to Pete.
All right. I think this game's going to be 27-20. I think Michigan's going to win by a touchdown. It's going to barely hit the over, and it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a defensive battle, I think, in the first half. Michigan season starts now, so this is really where it starts. So let's see something, Harbaugh. All this shit going on, let's see it. Go in there, beat them. But Penn State's not going to make it easy. So I'm calling 27-20 game, which means Michigan's going to cover. It's going to barely hit the over. Michigan money line.
Joe.
Before the show, I had Penn State with the spread and I had Penn State money line. But then I did a couple things. I realized James Franklin is their head coach, and it's the noon game. It's the 9 o'clock game.
I know.
It's not under the lights. If it was under the lights in Happy Valley, I probably would have stuck with my choice, but it's not. It's the 9 o'clock game. So I think Michigan wins here. I think Michigan money line. I'm taking the over. I think, Michigan is going to get to the point where they're just going to be running all over Penn State. They're going to get gassed. And then I'm taking Michigan minus 4.5.
I was high on Penn State to start the season. They were playing nobody. Michigan also playing nobody, but it was pretty well known that Michigan was playing absolutely nobody in the, out of conference to start the season. We really don't know what Michigan is. We know that they are good. Do we know if they're actually all that great because of their competition? We're going to find out this week. My general thought is I think they'll be good enough to squeak out a win. I'll take them by a field goal, so I'll take Penn State to cover here. I'm also going to take the over in this case, and I'll take Michigan to win with the money line.
I got the over.
Okay.
Thanks for the convincing, boys.
There you go. But, Joe, I do agree. I'm not sold on James Franklin anymore. I think something's got to happen, especially if they lose this weekend, and just seeing how the rest of this season plays out. How far can you really go with him as your head coach?
The only thing that he has going for him, he has not beat Ohio State, but he has beaten Michigan twice.
No, he's beaten Ohio State once.
Once. He's beaten Ohio State once, but he's beaten Michigan at least twice. Once in Ann Arbor, one in Happy Valley. So if there is a team that he can beat, it's Michigan. So we'll see. But it's not under the lights. I don't think it's a whiteout. So I'm taking Michigan.
The only thing I would say to that point, Joe, he's 1-8 against Ohio State, and he's 3-6 against Michigan. So he doesn't really have that great of a record against either one of them. Yeah.
True, but I mean, he has a better record against Michigan.
He's done it. He's definitely.
And there you have it. There's our Paradise Parlay of the week. Now for our prediction segment here, upset/covers of the week. Kicking it off here, this is Oklahoma's last year in the Big 12. West Virginia, though, is not going anywhere. And there's also only one team they have not beaten in football ever since they came to the Big 12, and that is OU. Neil Brown is taking a big step up this year. I'm impressed. They kicked our ass earlier this year. And I feel like this is their time to finally show OU, hey, we're not a pushover. We're coming into Norman, and we're going to storm your field, and we're going to win this time. Finally, give me WVU over Oklahoma. Joe.
What's the spread on that, Justin?
12.5.
12.5.
Joe.
I bounced all over. There's really not a game that's really standing out to me. So I'm just kind of throwing something at the board and hopefully it sticks. I'm taking Wyoming to upset UNLV plus 5.5. Don't know why. Don't have a reason. I'm just going for it. So go Cowboys.
Go Cowboys, as Pete would say. Russ.
Yeah, well, Joe, that's a good strategy because I've done that the last 3 weeks, and I'm on a 3-game winning streak. So, I got the longest winning streak in Touchdown in Paradise's short history, and I'm doing the same thing. I was definitely kind of confused, so I just threw it at the board, and it's going to stick. I'm taking New Mexico State 4.5 over FAU.
Something with you and those Florida teams. You kept being on USF and now FAU.
Well, I'm in Southwest Florida, so that's on. I'm in the Gulf. That's on the other side of the state.
I know. And Pete.
Yeah, so I'm going to be very clear with this. I'm not taking the money line, but I will take them to cover. I think Stanford somehow gets up for this Oregon State game and covers the 19.5 points. I mean, it's a lot of points, and they possibly could have beat Washington. So Stanford has a way of, especially at the end of the season, they've done it to Notre Dame many a times, just in November, beating us or almost beating us. So maybe a little November magic up in Oregon for Stanford. So I'm taking Stanford to cover.
What's the spread on that, Pete?
19.5. It's a lot.
A lot of points.
Oh, boy. Now over here, sleeper team. Not much here. Arizona has impressed me more than probably any other team this year in terms of growth as a program. Go Wildcats, bear down, baby. Joe.
I'm sticking with my green wave. Go Tulane. Definitely a underrated, under the radar team. One bad loss to Ole Miss with their quarterback out.
That's not even a bad loss. It was by one
not anymore.
The garbage time score.
I mean, not anymore. I think, Ole Miss could surprise Georgia this weekend. But again, go Green Wave, go Tulane.
Yeah, and now that Air Force lost, they are in the driver's seat for that New Year's Six Bowl bid.
There we go.
Russ.
Yeah, obviously, Arizona, they're here. They're not a sleeper anymore. I'm sticking with James Madison. Let's get them into a bowl game this year.
Come on, put the Dukes in. They deserve it. These stupid NCAA rules. And Pete.
Just simply because they're kind of sneaking up there. Ole Miss. I mean, they're at number 9. They only lost to Bama by 14 points. I mean, Kiffin's probably worst offensive performance this season, but we've all been talking about how damn good Alabama's defense is. I mean, they beat LSU, they beat Auburn. I mean, they've had some good wins here, and they beat Texas A&M. So, I think Ole Miss is kind of a little bit of a sleeper team. I don't think they're gonna, they're not gonna win the SEC, but definitely a sleeper team. I didn't think they'd be in the top 10 at this point in the year.
That's a great
Lane train, baby. Lane train.
Lane train. Choo choo.
Pete, you jump off that lane train more. You're like a train robber. You're just on and off, on and off.
Well, of course, I am robbing the train. Whose fault is that? It's Lane's, dude. I'll hype him up and then he'll lose. It's like it's crazy. So now if I just I don't hype him that much, he's just gonna be doing better.
And moving on here to our games we are watching this week.
Oh,
Let's go in reverse this time. Let's start with Pete.
Didn't even think about that one.
Yeah, exactly, Russ. Well, besides my sleeper team, because I'm trying to make an epic comeback in here, I think I'm really going to be watching how Florida State handles Miami. I think they're going to handle them. I just want to see Florida State come out and kind of beat the crap out of them. Florida State's really we need them to win the ACC so that we can keep, at least the championship, maybe from being dominated by two schools from one conference or something like that. I'd really like the ACC to be in there. So I'm hoping Florida State dominates. I'm hoping that they win out to make it into the top 4. So I'm really going to be keen on that game. I mean, it's an in-state game. Miami can get up for it. So I'm interested to see how they handle it in Tallahassee down there.
Russ, did you think of something, or should we come back to you?
Oh yeah, no, I want to see. I'm watching Mizzou, Tennessee. I want to see how the Tigers rebound from that tough loss, great game, and I'm interested to see how they bounce back after that loss from Georgia, and I think they'll bounce back nice.
Joe.
Well, I'm in the SEC as well. I'm watching that Ole Miss Georgia game. I think Georgia, has beaten teams that they needed to beat soundly. But again, I think Lane and that train that Pete loves getting on and off of could surprise. But, who knows? It wouldn't surprise me, though, if Georgia slips up here, thinking that they have an easy rest of the way in. So Ole Miss, Georgia, that'll be the game I'll be watching.
I want to see Lane bring it on offense. He can't have another stinker like he had against Bama, against a very good defense. I want to see them bring it. So I'm with you, Joe. That's probably the second game I'll be watching.
And I'm going to stick in the SEC as well. LSU, Florida. We saw Jaden Daniels unfortunately go down with a concussion, it looked like. If he's no good to play, I'm very curious how the Tigers are going to show up against the Gators, who can be the most frustrating team to watch in the country at times. And now let's move on into our wrap-up here. No stat of the day today, so we're going to go right into Cheers for the Week. Kicking off with my Cheer of the Week, Erin Matson, this most decorated field hockey player in UNC history. The school offered her the head coaching job right after graduating, so she's only 23 years old, by the way, the youngest head coach in all of the NCAA athletics. She led her former teammates to the number 1 ranking and ACC champions. Erin, congrats to you. Very impressive. Joe.
Yeah, I wasn't on last week, and I know, Justin, you shared my cheers last week, but I just want to do it again. I just want to cheers to being able to talk college football, watch good college football over the Saturday, talk football with you guys over on today and on every Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, whatever day we do it. With everything going on in the world, to be able to do this. And do it with my buds, you can't beat it. So cheers to just college football and talking college football with the guys.
Cheers to that. Russ.
Well, I'm going to stick with the flavor. This isn't football, but I'm going to throw it out to James Madison Athletics. They beat number 4 Michigan State in basketball. So their athletic programs are 0 since they, football's rolling, basketball GP number 4. So I'm giving it up to James Madison Athletics.
Yeah, let's go James Madison. Michigan State is on the polar opposite end right now. And Pete.
So besides obviously doing this wonderful podcast with my bros, sponsored by FinTalk, I want to give a shout out to maybe guys that need more chances in coaching. Antonio Pierce for the Las Vegas Raiders coming in this week. Basically, all the stories that got released on the speech he gave to the team, the reason they got rid of McDaniels, that guy's a winner. And that guy's a former player. And that guy was on a team, the Giants, that beat the undefeated New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. That guy knows how to win. And he took that team this week and galvanized them to an amazing victory. And it's completely changed the vibe of the Raiders. I want to cheer all the former players that potentially should have more coaching jobs. A lot of times we give it to these, these math nerds and these guys that have all these schemes and stuff. But sometimes it just comes down to who can galvanize their players. And one thing he did was he had all the practice guys that week on the field. I didn't really know that was a thing. I thought everyone was on the field all the time. Apparently not. A lot of the guys leading up to the week practicing with these NFL teams don't even go down the sideline for the game. He brought them all there. The vibe was great. I love what he's doing. So maybe give some more opportunities or change your mindset on former players here being head coaches and top coaches in the league.
Love it. Antonio Pierce, congrats to you. And shout out to everybody here for tuning in. Thank you so much. We can't do what we do without you guys. Be sure to keep tuning into the FinTalk Sports Network here and Touchdown in Paradise. I'm Justin.
I'm Petey Parlay.
I'm Joe.
I'm Russ.
And we'll see you next time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow for more.